I know, another spinner video, but this one's at least double as cool as the previous ones because it's two spinners that go in opposite directions. I have admittedly been doing quite a bit with 3D printed fidget spinners. I started out with these gear bearing spinners here with the little Emmett gear bearing inside of them that I was trying to see if I really needed to have a 608 bearing in there. And I put these 3D printed 608 bearings that I still can't tell you where I got from. They're just a couple of shells of plastic like this that are printed in an interlocking way so that they can't come apart. And so since they're not actually touching, they hold on to each other and you can spin them around. And at the end of the video, which if you haven't already clicked the link, it's right there, I tried one of them out, this one, that I just kind of tripled that bearing and glued them all together, and it spun remarkably well straight off the build plate. Then I decided to take that idea and see if I could make a fidget spinner without any 608 bearing in it, with an embedded bearing in there, but using pennies for weights. Super cheap, super simple. And this actually works. Now, since that video, I found that if you use a little bit of dry lubricant, a little bit of graphite, and just put a puff of it in there, it goes from spinning okay to spinning really well. Here, this is one that I haven't lubed up properly, okay? And okay, that's not bad. This is one that I've put graphite in there, and it spins much, much better. Now, it's still not comparable with using a skate bearing. If you get a proper skate bearing in there, then it will go a lot farther. However, I will mention that if you haven't treated your skate bearing, if you haven't stripped it and cleaned it and everything, regular skate bearings don't actually go for that long. Now, the untreated skate bearing tends to go about as good as the treated 3D printed bearing. So once you compare apples to apples, obviously the 608 bearing is better. However, at the end of that video, I showed Caleb Lowers, who's a friend of the show, he created a double spinner that I thought was really cool. Now, the thing about this double spinner is in order to get it going, you kind of have to continuously put energy into it. It does not go by itself very well at all. And I thought, well, maybe this would be a good application of these bearings. Now, a 608 skate bearing has little balls in it, and those balls reduce the amount of contact on the side. So I thought maybe I could duplicate that with a 3D printed bearing. So I've made this 608 bearings 3D printed with little balls inside of it and put it up against the original 608 bearing, which is just a bunch of shells. Now, this one doesn't actually contact the edge in very many places because it wiggles up or down. It actually only contacts in a couple of small spots. But I thought maybe with this one I could increase the contact, get it even closer to the edge, and reduce the amount of wiggle by making it so you have to break it at first, but once you do, it'll be better. So this is the double bearing that I made with the traditional, well, I say traditional, the original 608 bearing, and it worked. I was a little bit concerned that because of the shells that there would be too much wiggle introduced in here and that the edges would smack against each other, but that is just not the case. This is the one that I made with my modified 608 bearings with the little balls inside of it, and once you get this one going, it actually feels really good, but you can hear it clicking as the edges of it rub up against itself. Now, I will put the files for all of these spinners and all of these bearing variations up there so that you can try it yourself. But when you assemble, I just want to talk about how to assemble it real fast. You're going to print the two imbalanced parts, and you're going to weigh them down with pennies. And then you're going to have to, notice how they kind of are flat on one side and rounded on the other. You're going to want to flip them so that they're not going the same direction, because they're both spinning in opposite directions. You want them like this. Then you take the long peg, put one of them on, put the spacer in the middle. Why am I having trouble with that? There we go. The other one on top, and then take the cap, nestle it into the hole, and press down hard. And if you're concerned about that holding, if you haven't quite got your printer calibrated so that they're not perfect fit, you can file them down, open them up with a blade, and glue them down. I might end up doing that with this one because it's still a little bit loose, and I don't know why. I thought I had my printers calibrated well, but apparently not. Okay. Now, once you've got those done, let's compare. I'm just going to have to hold this. I'll glue it off camera. But let's compare how the 608 bearing goes with a proper 608 bearing. Okay, opposite directions. No. One more time. Here we go. Maybe I'll have to do this less. It's really not sticking. This is not working for my demonstration. There we go. Just snapped into place. Nope, just unsnapped. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Now I will say that this, my voice is kind of wobbling. It's still a little bit loose. I've got to file it down and get it on there. But even though the 608 bearing is not really being used for its lifespan and consistency, it is a much smoother ride. And if I get this tightened down on there properly, I'll have to do that off camera. This will be a much better double spinner. So in the end, this is the way to go, a proper 608 bearing. Oh well, I tried to make a 3D printed bearing work. I tried a lot to make a 3D printed bearing work, but it looks like it's just not meant to be. Hey, if you entered the contest a couple of videos back, I made a vlog entry and said, hey, go to my Which Way Is Z video. If you made a comment on that video, then you are going to receive a comment at the end of this letting you know that I'm going to send you a couple of these 3D printed bearings and spinners, and I'll give you 2 or 3 each, and there will be 2 or 3 winners. I will be taking the pennies out of them so that they will be lighter weight, so that I don't have to pay as much for shipping. I love you guys, but I will make you get your own pennies. I hope you can afford that. But otherwise, I thank you guys very much for entering, and there were very few entries, so your chances of winning are very good. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters. They are back here on the decorations up here, and there's still room for more. So if you want to get in on this, go ahead and support me on Patreon, and I will get your name up on the tile wall as well. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, safety first, and I will see you next time. You know, thing is, something like this you could make like a zoetrope with. Just have to put holes in the one, make it a full circle, but keep it imbalanced. No, I'm done. No more. Maybe just one prototype in Blender.